Tell me, how is the taste of human steeped in fear?
I made this for you!
How dare you?
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang! Bang!
This is one of the main reasons I love Chainsaw Man so much. Even when we're literally back in hell again, feeling the tension of a dire, an absurdly goofy, but also definitely dire situation, there is always time for a joke, even at the point of resolution. And obviously, it won't be the last joke in this chapter. You have read the chapter, right? So anyway, the falling devil starts blasting. As funny as this is, it's also awesome character development for the devil who's a chef for fun. It's always insane seeing primal devils in action, but it's even more awesome to see that she goes all out, specifically when someone disrespects a meal that she puts her love into. That's real character development from a joke, and I can personally relate as someone who enjoys cooking for other people. Anyway, I'm glad we got a decent idea of how powerful she actually is. Though I'm not sure why the falling devil can shoot what appear to be lasers? I don't know, maybe it's some sort of gravity beam? That has to do with falling. Don't worry about it. It looks cool, it's funny, and because it's funny, I frankly don't care.
Forget about it!
So then Fami shows up, and then Nayuta shows up. By the way, did you notice she's sitting on top of Asa and Denji's bodies? Lamau. This also begs the question, are these two able to travel freely between Earth and Hell just because they're members of the Four Horsemen? Does Denji know about this?
What?
Anyway, apparently Fami is actually trying to stop the Doomsday Prophecy by starving the War Devil and taking control of her. I needed to brush up on the prophecy myself, so let us consult the tomes. Chapter 122, pages 4 through 5, from the Prophecies of Nostradamus. In the 7th month of 1999, a great king of terror will descend. ... In a public safety experiment, they had 30 convicts make contracts with the future devil on the condition of their release. Then, public safety had them ask when they're going to die. Surprise, surprise. The future devil predicted that 23 out of 30 will lose their lives in July 1999. It also seems relevant to remember that right after this revelation is recited to Fami, she immediately guesses that the other 7 will die that week. And I quote, 40 seconds ago, a devil appeared at East District Tamino Apartments, the first of the devils who will shepherd the world to the ultimate terror. She is a devil with the name of a primal fear. Her name is... Obviously that ... would have been followed by Falling Devil in hindsight. So Fami was orchestrating this event with the Falling Devil, supposedly in order to stop the prophecy from coming about. Yet she also claimed that the Falling Devil would be the first to usher in the ultimate terror.
The reason I'm telling you all this is because I'm playing both sides so that I always come out on top.
I'm a little confused at the moment, and perhaps this could just be a translation issue, but it's not the first time that I've been confused right up until the moment the revelations of a twist are revealed, at which point I go, oh duh, now it seems obvious, which I actually consider a sign of good writing. We'll see how her actual intentions play out. I honestly have no idea now that I've looked back at this chapter. It might be worth doing some more rereading through part 2. Anyway, back to the actual chapter I'm supposed to be covering. Apparently Fami is trying to stop the prophecy because, and I quote, if an age of devils comes, things like pizza and Chinese food will cease to be.
What? No! God, please, no!
I know, it's the worst scenario imaginable. Fami says that with her and Control's strength combined, they can stop the Age of Devils, which will be brought about by the prophecy. What I'm wondering is, does she really only want to control war, with Denji simply being a tag-along who got caught up in the mess? Or does she actually want to control war and Chainsaw Man so that war can reclaim the power of nukes for Fami's use against said ultimate terror? Obviously the question must be asked, who are we even trying to stop to begin with? The only entities I could guess at this point would be the Death Devil or the fake Chainsaw Man. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but those are the only high-stakes elements I can think of that have already been set up in advance. No telling, and it could be something I'd never see coming anyway. Either way, it might help to drop a couple of nukes on them. We'll see. Anyway, Fami wants Control to help her stop the prophecy, but she can't because she has school. Honestly, Nayuta continues to solidify her place as the most entertaining kind of adorable brat. She still plopped down right on top of Asa throughout the entire conversation, by the way. I think her controlling nature is definitely an element of her personality, but that could also be seen as a mix of her still childish nature and godlike powers combined. There's also a mix of power, and in many ways, the spitting image of Denji, with her sometimes absurd sense of logic and priorities. This really reminds me of all of those moments when it seemed like Denji was doing the right thing because he wanted to save people, only to then find out that he was actually doing the right thing for absurd or even wrong-headed reasons. But I think it goes deeper than that. It's really evident through her characterization that she's been raised by Denji specifically. She does things for really strange reasons and kind of lives on a whim in some ways. But in a sense, she's also living and indulging in Denji's best life, the one he was never able to live growing up. And she values that, enough to say no to Fami here, even with everything on the line. Perhaps I'm overanalyzing a joke, but I think this is really good character development. The reason she values good food and an education is because she was raised by Denji, someone who was never afforded the privilege to take those things for granted. So freaking wholesome. All in all, basic impressions, one of my favorite types of chapters. It teases big overarching plot stuff, progresses the plot while leaving us questioning certain points, and uses seriously funny jokes and character development to make us feel like any sense of cliffhangers or mystery box elements that might be present are no skin off our backs. Because not only are we learning new things, we're just having so much fun with the ride itself. Manufactured tension between chapters is usually nothing but a crutch to maintain attention, especially when used every chapter. Just do something badass, or make me laugh by turning the cliffhanger into an absurd joke. That's way cooler, in my opinion. There is a little more I'd like to dig into though. So Falling Devil is a primal devil, but not only does Falling Devil seem to serve Fami, she literally bows to her. Maybe I'm overreaching here, but do you think this is confirmation that the Four Horsemen are at or above the primal devil's quote-unquote fear levels? I know this whole fear equals power thing has always been a little loosey-goosey, and I'm fine with that. There's also a pretty obvious counter-argument in the Makima versus Darkness Devil confrontation, where Makima was definitely able to do real damage, but would obviously never actually be able to win in such a hellish situation, pun intended. Then again, it always seemed to be implied that Makima was well feared and well hated everywhere, even in hell. I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but this seems like a pretty big deal. Also, I talk about how twists in this story often seem obvious once they've happened. In hindsight, a relationship between the famine/hunger devil and the devil who cooks seems totally obvious, but I personally didn't think about it. That's what makes so many of the Chainsaw Man twists uniquely great to me. I do think part of this lies in the way Fujimoto uses cleverly cinematic and subtle writing in that very fundamental sense, following traditional standards of storytelling. But it has just as much to do with the way that he mixes that with his so-called chaotic pacing, and occasionally a good fake out to do exactly what you should have expected in such a way that you either don't see it coming or don't expect it to happen at that point in the story. Also, the food jokes themselves, you know, the ones about good food going away, directly follow the devil who cooks proverbially biting the dust. I didn't think about it immediately, but man, stuff like this just makes the whole thing flow so smoothly, even when it switches on a dime between super serious and grim situations to absurd jokes. Everything is related in some way or another, even if you don't see it at first. Anyway, I've been wondering if there was a more regular content type I could use to break up longer term projects, and this kind of feels like the perfect way to do it. So let me know if you got something out of it. I think everyone loves to have someone on the internet just yell about how awesome the thing they like is occasionally. And as much of an anti-hype advocate as I may be, there's no denying that I'm a Chainsaw Man fanboy through and through. So I'm always gonna read it, and I'm always gonna have at least something to say about it. Anyway, vroom vroom, mother trucker. See you next time.